In 2023, inside the conservation lab of the Egyptian Museum in Cairo, a portable XRF spectrometer was pressed against the inner collar of the most famous object in the ancient world. The technician was not looking for anything unusual. This was routine, a materials baseline before a planned display relocation. Then the machine returned a result that did not fit. The gold alloy of the inner collar did not match any other object from Tutankhamun's tomb. The silver to gold ratio was wrong. The copper trace was wrong. The profile that came back was not from the late 18th Dynasty production period, associated with Tutankhamun's burial in 1323 BCE. It matched a compositional signature from roughly 12 years earlier, from the reign of Nefertiti. Someone removed a queen's face and replaced it with a boy king's. This highlights the gold mystery. That result does not begin as a theory. It begins as a measurement. XRF, X-ray fluorescence spectrometry, reads elemental composition by exciting surface atoms and recording the energy they emit. It does not argue. It returns numbers. The story from the inner collar returned a different narrative than the one on every museum label in Egyptology. This underscores the measurement and numbers evidence. The gold remembers who it was made for. If the alloy of the collar predates Tutankhamun's reign, then the most recognized object in ancient history was not made entirely for the person whose face it wears. And if that is true of the mask, the question spreads immediately. What else in that tomb was not made for him? Howard Carter opened KC-62 in November 1922 and noted carefully that the tomb showed signs of hasty assembly. Tutankhamun died at approximately 19 unexpectedly, with no purpose-built tomb ready. Carter documented that several objects bore traces of earlier ownership: shabti boxes with erased names, shrine panels with changed cartouches, a golden throne still showing a royal couple addressed by the name of the god Tutankhamun was supposed to have abandoned. Repurposing was common. The mask was the one object everyone assumed was exempt. The consensus that formed over the following century was precise on this point. Whatever else had been borrowed or transferred, the death mask was Tutankhamun's own. His face, his gold, his commission, no one looked at the join. To understand why the alloy anomaly is more than a curiosity, you have to understand what Tutankhamun inherited. His father was Akhenaten, the pharaoh who dismantled the Egyptian religious order, moved the capital to the desert city of Amarna, and elevated the Aten above all other gods. When Akhenaten died, his successors methodically erased the people and objects of his court. Temples were restored, names were cut from stone, and the Amarna court's gold, its funerary equipment, its royal objects, was reclaimed and redistributed. This is not conjecture. The erasure is documented across dozens of sites. What the alloy finding raises is the question the erasure left unanswered. When the Amarna court was dismantled, what happened to its gold? The emotional weight is not abstract. If the inner collar was made for Nefertiti, or for Meritaten or Kaya, all of whom vanish from the record in precisely this period, then the most seen face in Egyptology is a cover story. History did not erase her, it recycled her. And the recycling is sitting in a display case in Cairo. We have been looking at the wrong person for 100 years. The team that produced the 2023 findings was not assembled to find this. They were running a conservation baseline, standard procedure before any high-profile object is moved. The anomaly appeared on the third surface reading of the collar. The conservator's notes describe the session as unremarkable until that moment. Findings that interrupt a routine carry a different evidentiary weight than findings produced by a motivated search. This one was not sought. It arrived inside a procedure designed to confirm stability. What they found was this: the outer face of the mask, the portrait, the forehead, the chin, showed alloy composition consistent with late 18th Dynasty royal production, matching the other major gold objects from KV-62. But the inner collar and back panel join told a different story. Silver content was elevated by 4 to 6%. Copper trace was reduced. That specific profile, elevated silver against reduced copper, appears in objects associated with the Amarna court, dated to the co-regency window of Nefertiti around 1334 to 1332 BCE. It does not appear in objects produced after the restoration period began. The mask is not one object. It is two metallurgical periods fused at a seam. That seam is visible. Under raking light, the join between the face and the collar is physically present. It has been photographed thousands of times. It is there in Carter's own 1925 conservation images, published in the original excavation report. No one analyzed it for alloy implications. The photograph is in the published record. Page 47. In 2015, Egyptologist Nicholas Reeves published an analysis of high-resolution scans of KV62's walls and proposed that the north wall of the burial chamber concealed a sealed doorway, that Tutankhamun's tomb was an antechamber to a larger tomb behind it. The hypothesis was controversial. Subsequent radar surveys in 2016 and 2017 produced disputed readings, neither confirmation nor clean refutation. The wall has not been opened. Separately, a 1998 conservation study documented that the cartouche on the mask, the hieroglyphic name band identifying it as Tutankhamun's, showed evidence of reinscription, an earlier name partially visible beneath the overlaid one. That finding was noted and filed without being followed to a structural conclusion. 3 independent lines of evidence, 3 different researchers, 25 years, all pointing at the same place. The strangest thing is not that we may have found the wrong tomb, it's that nobody looked at the seam. The mask's anomaly is not unique in the 18th Dynasty record. In KVZ 55, the enigmatic tomb discovered meters from KV's 62, archaeologists found a royal coffin made for one person and buried with another, the inscriptions naming the original owner cut out. In K521, 2 female mummies lay with erased identities. One was later identified through ancient DNA as the probable mother of fetuses found inside KV 62. The pattern repeats across the valley. Objects transferred, names removed, identities redistributed. This was policy. The post-Amarna restoration required the systematic reclamation of the Amarna court's material wealth and its redistribution into a newly orthodox royal lineage. People closest to Akhenaten had their names cut from stone and their gold relabeled. The mask is the most visible object produced by that policy. It is not the only one. In 2012, CT scans of the mummy of Ramesses III revealed a deep cut across the throat, a wound hidden beneath the bandaging, invisible to every prior examination, consistent with assassination. The mummy had been studied since 1886. The wound had been there the whole time. When the technology arrived to see it, Egyptology revised its record without significant resistance. Physical evidence from a non-invasive instrument overturned a textual consensus held for 3,000 years. The methodological structure of that revision is identical to what the XRF findings represent for the mask, a famous royal funerary object, decades of prior study, an instrument producing a result the accepted record cannot accommodate. The Ramesses revision changed one fact about one death. The mask finding, if it holds, changes the identity of the most recognized artifact in the ancient world. The objections to the 2023 findings are not trivial. XRF surface readings are sensitive to contamination, conservation treatments applied over decades, handling residues, environmental deposition. Critics argued the surface measurements may not represent original alloy composition. The 2023 team anticipated this. Their microsampling protocol removed surface oxidation layers before measurement, and the variance persists at depth. A second objection holds that the 18th Dynasty gold workshops were not standardized, and batch variation could explain compositional differences. The counter-evidence is that the specific pattern, elevated silver against reduced copper, appears consistently in Amarna period objects and not in post-Amarna production, placing it outside the expected range of workshop variation. The criticism addressed the measurement. It did not address the seam. The join line is not a measurement. It is a physical structure, the place where 2 differently composed sections of gold were fused together. No contamination argument explains why the mask has a join at that location. No batch variation argument explains why the alloy on one side matches a different historical period than the alloy on the other. The objections narrow the measurement's certainty. They do not close the structural question. Nefertiti disappears from the Egyptian historical record around 1332 BCE. No confirmed burial, no confirmed tomb, no confirmed cause of death. She ruled, possibly as pharaoh, under the name Neferneferuaten, for 2 to 3 years after Akhenaten, and then she is gone. The alloy data from the mask collar dates to precisely that window. The mask does not prove she was buried in KV 62. It raises the possibility that her funerary equipment was distributed into the burial that replaced her, that the gold poured for a queen was reframed around a king. The larger implication is not a conspiracy. It is a structural feature of how Bronze Age dynasties manage succession crises. They did not destroy what they seized. They incorporated it. They wrote new names over old ones, fused new gold onto existing frameworks, buried the heretic's wealth inside the Orthodox king's tomb. The most famous face in Egyptology may be a palimpsest, a later identity written over an earlier one, with the earlier one not erased but embedded, still readable if you know what instrument to use and what question to ask. Behind the north wall of KV-62, there may be a door. The radar surveys did not resolve it. The wall is painted with scenes that cannot be restored once removed. The Egyptian Ministry of Antiquities has not authorized excavation, not as obstruction, but as a genuine dilemma. The wall is irreplaceable. The evidence for what lies behind it is real but contested. To open it is to destroy something permanent, on the basis of data that has not achieved consensus. The radar data is real. The wall is real. The alloy is real. The question is whether we are willing to look. The mask is in its case in the Egyptian Museum. It has been there since 1924. Under raking light, the join between the face and the collar is visible, a line present in every photograph ever taken of it, including Carter's own images from a century ago. The alloy data is in a peer-reviewed journal. The cartouche reinscription is in the 1998 conservation report. The radar anomaly is in the 2015 survey. None of this has been synthesized into an official reevaluation. The museum label still says Tutankhamun. That line, where the face meets the collar, where one period of gold meets another, where one name was written over a different one, is where this story lives, not in a hidden chamber, not in a sealed archive, behind glass, in public, in the most visited museum room in Africa, seen by millions of people who have never been told to look at the seam. The mask has an answer. The museum has a label. They are not the same thing.